Hi crafters and welcome to Technique of the Week. So today's technique, we used to in the previous videos or previous cards call it eclipse, but that usually had to do with words coming up on your card and you had like a dark background underneath where the words were cut out, letters, so you could see like a little bit of a shadow. This people are dubbing as double vision. So it usually involves designer series paper or DSP, like I call it. So let's do this first. So I'm going to take this. This is called Delicate Dreams. It is currently on back order. They're supposed to get more in on June 1st, they're estimating. And I'm sorry, both of the DSP or designer series paper I'm using today are both on back order, but both are going to be in June. This one, first week of June. When I show the Scenic Coast paper, it's going to be I think the third week in June. Okay, so this piece is a little over 4 inches long. So I am going to cut that to be, see, I'm trying to figure if I want to go, I'm going to go vertical with it. So let's do 5 by 3 3/4. That's one of our normal layers. For those of you who have my layer system at home, oh, let me see. Sorry. That is our second layer down, 3 3/4 by 5. So, and here's one I did with rectangles. Very old video showing how I have those. That's how I get a lot of my ideas for my Watch It Wednesday, Finish It Friday series, is that I will take these pieces I have and just start throwing them on a card base to see what I want to do for that series. Okay, but let's get back to Technique of the Week. So this is 3 3/4 by 5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into I'm going to do 1/2 inch strips. Now I want to keep them in order. So I'm going to put them over here so I can keep them in order. Now with this pattern, it's pretty easy to see how it lines back up. Some patterns, it would really be more challenging, let's say. All right. And yes, I could have had these all cut out for you beforehand, but I think some people like seeing me do all the steps and like to see how long a card actually does take. Because sometimes when people have stuff pre-cut out, you think, oh, I can get that done in like 20 minutes. And then, an hour later, you're still making the card. All right, so let's get this last one at that 1/2 inch mark. All right, so then I had these over here on my side, all in order. You know what? That's where I usually put my cutter, so I'm going to throw that on my chair over there. All right, now let's get sorry, I have a bunch of scraps on my desk. So now let's cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. So that's the next layer up. I can tell that that's the underside. 4 by 5 1/4. away. It was back in the scrap pile. Because now we're going to start taping this down, gluing this down. Now, I personally, you know what, I feel like I cut it on two different sides of the paper, so I have a little bit of an edge showing. So let me flatten those edges all down. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is, I know that these strips are a little bit smaller than, it doesn't go all the way to the corner, to the edge. So I'm going to put some glue and I'm going to let it set for a second just so it gets tacky. Then that's going to help us a little bit better on our structure. So now let me find, where did I put those strips of paper? If you're like me, you have lots, oh, right here. You have lots of strips laying around. And I keep throwing my cutter over here by my desk and I need it. So I'm going to do a bunch of strips, but these are going to not be all the way to that 1/2 inch mark. So we're going to do maybe like that. Because I want these to go under the strips and not really be seen. So if I made on the same side, you might see that white edge. So you're just doing some strips that are a little bit smaller than that. Remember that was 3 3/4 by 5. Oh, did I do this by 5 or 5 1/4? Oh, good, 5 1/4. Phew. You know, sometimes the brain. All right, so I'm going to do these at 3 1/2 inch strips. All right. And we're going to do a bunch of them because I might double up. I don't know, we'll see. So again, here's the 1/2 inch. I'm going a little bit less than that. And then we're going 3 1/2 in this direction. And so this is prep work you can do while your glue is somewhat drying. All right. So now these are going to go on every other. All right, I don't think I need this for a while, so I'm going to, oops, sorry. Again, throw it on my work desk chair, which is right by my microphone. So I'm sorry if you heard that all. And now I have a bunch of paper at my feet, so I'm just moving it so I can get closer to the board here. All right, so we're going to keep this in order. We're going to put this one down first. Now these are going to be a little bit of a border, but then we're going to have them right next to one another. All right, so hopefully I don't get crooked, get off on how my card goes, because it would be terrible if it starts to lean. All right, so here now I'm taking the next one. I'm putting this strip on the back, and I'm going to see how it looks. Yeah, I think I want to bring it up one more. You could use your thick cardstock. I always have a package around, but I rarely use it. I put so many layers on my card sometimes that I don't want to. Oh, now I have to look to see which direction I went in. Yep. So that looks a little bit better. All right. So we're going to do 2 layers on each of these. And yes, you could use your dimensionals. I find that I like using the cardstock just a little bit better. The dimensionals sometimes have sticky edge, and I feel like your layers can get stuck. All right, so let's go ahead and do this next one. Trying to keep my finger on the top of it so it's going to line up. Let's do our next square. This is the top. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to glue two of these together. And yes, you could use the tape too, but again, to me, the tape sometimes has that sticky edge that's left. So I prefer using the glue, where I can kind of control where the adhesive is going. Ooh, I got too close to the top. Let me go ahead, quickly take that off. Now let's go a little bit down. There we go. Again, a thin amount of glue. You can put as many layers on as you want. All right, here's the top here. And you want to be consistent. So if you're doing 2 layers, you don't want to halfway through it decide to do 3 layers under there. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to use the dimensionals, you can, but I would suggest that if you do, you would use probably the mini dimensionals, just so, sorry, thinking and gluing is hard, just so you don't see any of those edges. I'm not trying to get any of that background color in there. With the ellipse, if we were doing this with like the ellipse method, with, like I said, like with the letters, you would want to leave a little bit so you can see that edge underneath. Not what we're doing here today though. You know what? I'm just going to glue a bunch of these together right now. I sometimes think, especially if you're doing mass producing, it's kind of good to do it this way. That way, you're not always reaching for the same things over and over again. So I think that should be enough. So that one was down. This one's going to be up. So let's go ahead. Glue on that. Oh, did I get these out of line? No. And yes, I put the sticky on there. And now I'm putting extra glue on. But since that's sticky under there, it doesn't have a chance to adhere quite yet, so you can bring it back up if you need to. And the last piece. All right. All right, I'm just double checking. It looks like the microphone is still working. had some problems last week with my microphone. So just always trying to make sure that, excuse me, it's raining here in Chicagoland this morning. It's a little bit of a light rain now. So I'm sorry, my sinuses are acting up. But anyway, last week I was having some troubles with my microphone. In fact, my Finish It Friday episode, the first minute or so, the microphone didn't pick up. So I have changed which USB I have plugged it into. I have also unplugged and replugged, started in. So I'm hoping that will help too. All right, so there is that ellipse look. So you can see it better when it's on the side. See how that's raised up there? Not the ellipse, I'm sorry, double vision. You can see how that double vision works. All right, I'm gonna do another one really quick because I don't like having really, really long videos. This one involves, let's say, let me use this one. Let's use DSP. All right, and I'm gonna grab a punch for this one. Ooh. Sorry, I was talking when I went right by the microphone, and I know that was probably very loud. All right, so on this one, let's go ahead and let's cut this down again to our 5, which I think I want. I'm gonna go this way. I know you're like, Roxy, you're wasting, but I'm not. I'm not wasting DSP, designer series paper, because I save all these strips and I will use them somewhere else. And then we're going to go 3 3/4. So I think I'm going to start here and then finish it up here at our 3 3/4. And hopefully I went in enough. Yes, that I'm going to go ahead and punch this out. This is the new rounded edge rectangle. It's in the new catalog. It is part of a bundle. I did not get it as a bundle. I just got the punch by itself because that's just how I am. All right, so let's go ahead and let's try to think. I have some stuff here on the ground by me. None of these I think is long enough. Oh, that one could go around, but doesn't look good. Oh, kind of shows up, doesn't it? Because I don't think this. Oh, I think I like that better because it's softer. I feel like that comes out against it. All right, so since this is 3 3/4 by 5, we're going to make this just a tiny bit better. So 3, and we're going to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Now this little scrap I will throw away. Let's go ahead. I can put this over here now because guess what? I don't have my cardstock over there anymore. All right. This one I'm going to show you with the dimensionals so you can see both ways and you can decide which way you like better. Again, I'm going to put the glue back here. I'm going to get it right up in that corner. I'm going to let it sit a second so that I don't have seepage. It won't smush out of the edge. But you want to get right into those corners, especially when you're layering with the DSP or designer series paper, because it is thinner, not by much, but it is thinner than the cardstock. So let's just let that sit there for a second. Get just a little bit tacky. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way here. All right. Let's go ahead. And if you get your edging right on two edges, the other two edges, if you've cut straight, should be fine. All right, let's go ahead and grab out my dimensionals. When I get the dimensionals, I put packing tape, that clear packing tape, over the top, rub it a little bit so that the packing tape captures those backings, and I don't have to have backings all over the place that I have to pick up. So let's go ahead. The only thing is then when you touch this, it is sticky on you. So if you put your hand someplace, you might have dimensionals come back up with it. So that's the only downside to it. But to me, not having to chase down those backings, those paper pieces, is worth it. Like I said, and I just put a piece of cardstock on there just so I have something strong to pull. All right, let me put that back up there. Let's go ahead and grab this. Again, we're going straight into that. Maybe it won't help. Maybe just looking at it. And see, there you have that same look where you have that little bit of height. You could double up your dimensionals if you wanted to, if you wanted to make it really high. And then this, I'll just go ahead, since I already have that elevated with the dimensionals, I'm not going to use tape, my tape runner on the back of that, because it would smush down, press down that pop-up level. Again, if I have two sides looking pretty even, I can drop it right in there. Of course, I could always use, sorry, let me come over here. It's right by the microphone, so sorry. I could always use what my son made me. He made this for me so that I could put the card base in there, put this in here, and layer it up. Now this is for 1/4 of an inch, so you can see, since this was 3 7/8, not quite, but this is good for just the normal layers that are in that. Let me show you. It's more meant for the layers that go down 1/4 of an inch. So, all right. So there, only 2 examples because this one took a little bit longer, but there you have your examples of the double vision. If this was letters, like I said, I would call it eclipse, because underneath those letters you usually put a darker layer so you could see just a little bit of that shadow look when you're looking at it. But there you are. There's our examples for this week's Technique of the Week. Please remember to give me that thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. I get less than 5 likes for my videos, so my thumbs ups. When I have, like, I think one of my Technique of the Weeks had like over 150 views and there was 2 likes. So if you think this was helpful in any way, please give me that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Most of all, have a great Sunday. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all the active duty, and especially on this day, this weekend, let's remember those who have lost their lives for our country so that we can be free. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday. Bye for now.